Hey, Tyler, Plug Power just issued a press release stating what they're calling a monumental deal for a pretty massive electrolyzer system with a company in Australia. You ready to dig in, see what it means for investors who are looking at Plug Power, who are looking at hydrogen, thinking about the future of energy?
Let's do this.
All right, let's get to it. I'm Jason Hall. This is Investing Unscripted. We're going to dig into what's going on with Plug Power's latest information. Make sure investors have the whole story. We've done some research. If you're looking to win from hydrogen and the future of energy, we do have some great companies we want to talk about. This video is sponsored by The Motley Fool. If you're looking for even more great stock ideas, go to fool.com/unscripted. That's our special link. If you go to that offer, you can get access to The Motley Fool's 10 best stocks to buy now. Okay, Tyler, here we go. Plug Power's press release page on their website. Plug seals monumental deal with Allied Green Ammonia for a mega 3 gigawatts electrolyzer system. So I'm going to click on the link, but what exactly does all of that mean before we even get into the details here?
Sure. So what they've done is they've signed it sounds like it's in the very still early stages, but it's a deal with a company in Australia in the Northern Territories to create green hydrogen, to make green ammonia, because allied green ammonia, it's for fertilizer, I think is the main play here. Ammonia is a common fertilizer used, and where they're talking about in Australia tends to be one of the places where they do a lot of pasture and grazing and things like that. So a lot of fertilizer used. The idea of it being green is that typically ammonia is built from natural, or we manufacture it through natural gas. And so by doing it with hydrogen that is created through an electrolyzer, which Plug Power manufacturers, the idea being that you can get ammonia without the fossil fuel kind of carbon emissions that are typically associated with it. It's a very large deal. Allied Green Ammonia says it's going to develop a 4.5 gigawatt solar plant to plug these electrolyzers into it. Just for context, First Solar, one of the largest solar panel manufacturers in the world, their third quarter earnings, they produced about 4.8 gigawatts worth of panels. Gives you an idea of like how big this is. This is huge. And,
Yeah.
Northern Territory, Australia, I'm guessing there's quite a bit of room for that sort of thing. So, but this is, it's hard to understate like how big this would be if, fully realized. That's a lot of work. And I don't know precisely how much. I think they said 2,700 metric tons of green ammonia. Just for context, I believe it was last in October of 2023. Plug Power put out their symposium on some of their operational facilities that they had built. One in Tennessee created 10 tons per day of hydrogen products. So like green hydrogen, or in this case, or green ammonia. I mean, it's a little bit different, but not too far off.
You need to produce more hydrogen than you're going to get in ammonia when you
Right.
process the hydrogen to create ammonia. So it's big. That's the
Yeah,
point. This is enormous.
this is orders of magnitude larger than anything that Plug Power has ever built in its entire history.
That's right. So I think we need to talk a little bit about the timeline too, because, and we're going to dig in more as we talk about Plug and some of their struggles. This is going to take a long time. So again, the agreement's in place, but they're still waiting on an FID, final investment decision, to move forward with the entire project. And that's expected to be by second quarter of this year. So sometime between April and the end of June. So number one, there's still possibility that things change, right? This is a great start. It's a great move, but we're also still talking about 2 years, Tyler, before they're going to start delivering the electrolyzers down the road. So there's a massive amount of time between this announcement and it generating any revenue for Plug. We're recording this early the afternoon of the 15th. They made the announcement today. The stock's up maybe 5% or so. Typically in the past, when we've seen Plug make really big announcements, the stock usually moves by double digits. And we're not seeing that happen right now. So let's talk a little bit. I think it's really important, Tyler, because Plug has had a habit of making really big, grand statements in the past. And frankly, failing to deliver on those things. Let's take a little bit of a look back at Plug Power.
We've been following this company for like 10 years, and it's kind of a lot of the same. It's these grandiose projects or plans or deliveries to major customers. They've announcements to customers like Walmart and Amazon and things like that to use their hydrogen fuel cells, which was kind of a niche business. They were using it for like fueling forklifts in warehouses and things like that.
2
Site.
areas where they've seen success broadly and where hydrogen has seen success broadly over the prior 20 years is forklifts, right? Where you're operating indoors, so you want to avoid using combustion engines. So hydrogen's a great place for that. And also in remote power backup. Things like data centers and that sort of thing where you lose access to the grid, you need to generate massive amounts of power and you need to be able to store the fuel on site. Hydrogen's been really compelling versus as an alternative to things like diesel or natural gas or propane or that sort of thing. So they've seen success, but like you said, those have been relatively niche. It's just the shift, the green transition and the electrification of everything that we've talked about a lot on other videos has made a much larger addressable market via using wind and solar as the power source and the advent of electrolyzers to take water and get electricity and electrolysis to separate the hydrogen from the oxygen, and you get hydrogen, a gas that you can store.
Yeah, and using it as an energy storage mechanism or for, either for burning for other purposes like for this in this example, using ammonia. But to get back to the story here, is it's been a lot of these talk of grandiose ideas and big projects and things like that, and, tends to move the stock in big ways, and everybody kinda get perked up about the idea, but operationally, the company has frankly failed to deliver over and over and over again. I can remember, I think it was as late as far back as 2015 or 2016, they were talking about basically being EBITDA neutral. It's similar to operating income. They said they were
Yeah.
gonna be operating income neutral. So basically, like, we're not gonna lose a lot of money on overhead. That was 10 years ago.
Well, they've had some gross margin periods. What they've never done, the company has never generated free cash flow, not even just in a full year, but not even in a single quarter as a
Right.
public company in a quarter of a century, right? So it's a company that's frankly it's failed to deliver on very big promises essentially in its entire time as a public company. I want to highlight a couple of recent ones. A lot of people are going to say, well, that was back then. Now we've got electrolyzers and all of these massive addressable market opportunities, which is true, but I want to go way back in time to the spring of 2023. Okay, so year and a half ago, right? This was the company's symposium. The company was forecasting in 2027, $6 billion in revenue. In 2030, $20 billion in revenue. That's what they were forecasting. They were saying that in 2023, this was the spring of 2023, they were saying, we're going to do $1.2 billion in the spring of 2023. What did Plug Power do in the spring and full year 2023? It did
Just over 800 million.
$891 million. Again, company was saying that same year, they were saying by the end of the year, we'll be at $1.2 billion. They missed it by more than 30%. Stated goals, again, $6 billion in 2027, $20 billion in 2030. Now, just a couple of months ago, the company gave us some updated goals in their 2024 symposium. So remember these numbers right here, 6 and 20 in 2027 and 2030. Remember those numbers. They're now saying less than $2 billion for the $6 billion and less than $4 billion for the $20 billion number. So I'm gonna show this too real quick. This is the revenue over the past 4 quarters. We haven't gotten the Q4 result yet. It's going to get reported pretty soon, but we've seen revenues continue to decline. The company is calling this a year of consolidation. I'm not sure who's consolidating anything. We've seen big pullbacks in the market. We've seen declines in sales across their business. I'm not going to deny, I want to say this, I'm not going to deny that big deal could be monumental. I mean, it's a massive, massive deal. If it happens, the company hasn't even fully approved on the entire project, right? So that's got to happen. That will happen for another few months. And then we're still talking about the end of 2027, basically 2 years from now, before that deal would start generating a single nickel in recognized revenue from delivering the product. You and I think I can speak for you, Tyler. We still see Plug Power as a company that's got to prove something besides press releases before investors should consider it based on the potential. Am I speaking wrongly for you?
Show me operational results, and it just hasn't been there. And until that changes, my position, it won't change.
Now, there are companies that are making money in hydrogen and in other industrial gases broadly that are wonderful businesses for anybody that's looking to profit on the future of hydrogen and also have some diversification, and companies that also have a lot of downside protection too and have proven their ability to make money. We've got a couple stocks we can recommend, right?
Yeah, I'm talking about them before. Industrial gas giants, Air Products and Linde. These are both, it's kind of one of those, it's like they're so boring that nobody really cares about them because they just generate returns kind of year in, year out. They have incredibly stable revenue models, very diversified. They sell hydrogen, but they also sell carbon dioxide for soda manufacturers. They sell oxygen for hospitals. It's kind of like a everything that's industrial gas related is something they're gonna do here, and hydrogen is going to be a big part of their business. You go through any of their investor presentations, and they're talking about the transition to what they call blue and green hydrogen. Blue is kind of somewhere in between. It's not quite the cleanest manufacturing process, but it's substantially cleaner than what we've done before. And then an eventual transition to green one once there is a adequate availability of renewable power to make it happen. It's one of those things where it's, a little chicken and egg situation. But these are established businesses, incredibly profitable, throwing off loads of free cash flow that reward shareholders with dividends and things like that, and have the capital and financing possible to build out these sort of things when they are required. Plug Power doesn't have the capital. They're going to have to raise it, typically through stock issuance, which dilutes you. So, with all of that in mind, if you're betting on somebody that is going to build the future, not just like conceptually talk about the future, but actually build the future of like a hydrogen economy, these industrial gas giants have been doing it for a long time.
Here's the past 10 years. Air Products has 200% in returns, essentially total returns over the past decade. That's a triple, right? Every dollar you invest in the company would now be worth $3 and more than a 4x return with Lindy up 314%. Wonderful businesses. They have incredible moats, real economic moats that make them so incredibly strong. Plug Power over that same period, this is where the hype started, the massive bubble. But it's a round trip. It's a round trip because it's just hype and promises that have never generated returns for investors. I'm going to pull Plug Power stock off of here and just look at some valuation metrics real quick. Lindy, 32 and a half times earnings and less than 18 times for Air Products. The valuations for both have come down a pretty good bit over the past few years and have become more attractive. I think that's a really compelling thing that investors should remember. Do these have like the upside that investors sometimes perceive a stock like Plug might have? No, you buy Plug Power today because you think the stock's going to 10x in the next year or whatever. But Plug Power has yet to prove that it has a business that can even support its own operations, right? It's lived off of issuing more stock, telling a great story and secondary offerings and private placements and taking that money to cover its operations and just burning more shares. You know what Lindy's done over the past 5 years? Bought back 9% of the stock. Or buying shares back while Plug Power is just having to issue more shares to keep the doors open. Plug Power has just done an incredible job of taking money from investors and not returning any value, while Lindy and Air Products have created value. Hydrogen's probably going to continue to get a lot bigger. There's a massive demand for it, and it's growing, and it fits a lot of needs. You want to make money from it, look at companies like Plug Power and Lindy, and don't fall for the traps of the Plug Powers of the world.